And this is for Alex. And today, to make sure that you have a very introductory session, not a selection. So what I'd like for you to do, if you haven't done a simultaneously, is join the WhatsApp group, and you'll find there under the description of the course some materials that we would like for you to engage with throughout the lecture. Additionally, if you have
I'll do another way. So, what I think is, okay, the ask each for one of you in each group that's touch it. So I'm going to start with this group. You know, don't think about it too much. Don't think about it too much. Say, leave what you're saying.
Silakan share topik apa yang kalian sukai, apa yang contoh nih kucing-kucing yang ada apa disampaikan ke Pak Alex dan Pak
Okay, right. Okay. Okay. Right. And so the general with this group is education. That's the point of it. Now you need to identify what's the point of interest. Now you need to do is identify
what do you want to know about interprofessionalism? So how does interprofessionalism impact on pedagogical practice?
good question. So, if I get this group, we just got general topic of interest. And then
Coba boleh buka handphonenya, search the Google. Okay, do some search.
Let me try and explain.
Oh, okay. Alex wants
Any of you see, do you know what's going to be say, illusion? Any of you see the picture of it looks like a rabbit. It looks like a rabbit with ears. But actually, when you look at it over time, it suddenly changes. And it looks like a dart swimming on the water. So that is an example of how we see the world in one way, and we think that's the truth. We see it in the rabbit, and we think that that's how the world is, because that's what we see. Then suddenly, maybe you're looking at it all the time, or something is happening, then you see, oh, wait a minute, it's a rabbit. Maybe the way I look at it changes my perception. And character is a way that we see the world, and we view the world. Now, the last year, we're very interested by looking at improvements and what we did in the project, we did with our students and students in the UAT, got them together in a virtual room, and they worked one semester together. And I think that by sharing experience, both our students and your students experience a paradigm shift in the way that they view the world. Because our students weren't used to work with students in their design university. So it was really exciting for them to see different ways that you see the world. And for you to see the different ways that our students see the world. And that way they were able to question the different paradigms in which they see the world. So when we think about research, we also need to think very carefully about our philosophy and the way that we see the world. So, for example, when we think about research, very research about anxiety, did you know that UAT are a really important journal and it's called Science Knowledge? It's a journal Science. And that speaks to there is an article you can write a dissertation about anxiety that leads to the American you see how the way you see the world, it belongs to question or seeing past. You're going to find part of it, which is past.
However, we need to think about the approach. So narrowing down from qualitative, you might think, for example, maybe you want to do a case study and just focus on one school or one class. Maybe you want to actually, within that case study, think about the methods that you might use. So, for example, earlier I mentioned interviews, and there are other qualitative methods which we will explore every day, but we will focus on interviews in the main. And then moving on to that, and I'm going to go those materials that are going to be really, but you have to see the tool of it. Okay, well, even the Google search, you probably have source, right? But you also probably have some academic papers, or you might have some text, basic text. That is the literature. Okay? And today, what we are going to look at is how do we get that qualitative data that we need, and how do we analyze it? I hope you don't remember that. Okay, so over to you, Alex. Yeah, we're focused on the
So structure, semi-structure is that's just focus on the last two focus to talk about this. That's just do the first three. So I'm going to ask the group, this group, to tell me what you think the difference between the first three on the list. What do you think the differences might be? What?
Okay, so in my opinion, strategy is the prepare and different ones. So we need to read the interview deadline, the interview based on interview deadline, correct? For the interview, we ask questions based on the interview deadline, but also we can get some information from our perspective. First, we get interview, we question deeper from the respondents.
So thank you. That's really helpful. So just to reiterate, with structured interview, you know what you're going to do, you know the search position, and you know exactly what you want to get. So you structure the questions. If I'm going to interview maybe 4 or 5 new separate people, I would ask you all exactly the same question. I would ask exactly the same question because it's structured, and I want to keep that consistency. So I would look to do a structured interview where the topic guide is very clear. There are very clear questions. Now, if I want a more iterative process to go in deeper, then what I would do is semi-structured. That way, I would be open to talk to each of my respondents, but I would let them, there would be more of an interaction. I would be open to them. I would ask a question, but then in their response, I wouldn't go straight to the second question. I would let them see and think, oh, that's interesting. Can I ask a little bit more about that? So it's a much more open process. And then with the in-depth interviews, arguably, if we look at this sort of taking extreme cases, then in-depth interviews is where you don't really know a lot about the tool. So, for example, one topic might be about readings. When there's been a death family members, or so this is quite a difficult and sensitive topic, and maybe we don't want to say, well, how did it make you feel, or specific questions. We want it to be more general. We want them to talk how they try to understand how we agree with something. Then we would leave it much more open.
Yes, so moving on to focus group interviews. So say for example, we have our lovely teachers here, and I decide to invite all of you to an interview in which I'm going to be talking about one specific topic. So it could be about environmental teaching, and maybe during that interview, I'm going to propose that in order to alleviate scientific teaching, we are going to have smaller groups during the time that the student is teaching. Say, for example, during the presentation. And during that focus group interview, I'm going to ask your opinion as to what do you think of that proposed strategy. So all of you will have something to say about the one thing, which is what I call the focus group. Yeah? Yeah? Is that clear? Okay. And then we have casual or unplanned interviews. And a lot of times this happens when you're out in the field and you just have to see the opportunity to actually speak to someone who was a previously unplanned participant, but we see them there. Like for example, when I went to the Philippines, somebody in the office of the charity who were my gatekeepers for my research said, "Oh, I'm American, I'm American. And we don't need these. We are social workers. We overheard during this meeting and we just want to ask something." So I took that as an unplanned interview. Okay? Yeah.
Trying to say that's a good talk. Please write any questions that you might have. If you're thinking, oh, I want to know more about proposals, I want to know more about this or that, then just write down questions. And you can ask us either later or very happy if you want to put your hand up and ask immediately at the time. We're very happy to respond to questions.
Let's go to the power definition. Yeah. There is one, I see it.
Okay, so can anybody think of a situation in which there might be a power differentiation? Does anybody know what I mean by the term power differentiation? Maybe the group of that. If I say power differentiation, you know what I mean by that. So, power differentiation. So, for example, if I'm here a visiting lecturer, and you're sitting there and you kind of you're happy to listen. Maybe your teacher said, "Oh, you've got to listen. This is really important." Is the power with you, or is the power with me, or is the power with the teacher? That's interesting, isn't it? Because arguably we all have power. You may have the power to say, "No, I can't come today because I need to go. I'm visiting my grandmother still in hospital." Or your teacher may say, "Perhaps come," or I may come to come. So there's different powers. And when you are interviewing, when you are working qualitatively, you need to be aware of your relationship with the person you're interviewing. Because if I was your teacher and I'm interviewing you about your course, and I say, "Do you like your course?" What are you going to say? "Yes, I like it." I like it. I want you to say that because you're not want to, you won't want to, you won't, you might very, that's the teacher to do that. So you might think, you might tell them, they're going to give you a bad grade. So there are some power relationships there. It's important that, for example, the medical doctor, you know, if you're when you're interviewing by a doctor, you are going to make it a certain way. You're going to give certain records to somebody who is.
So we have one activity now. So on the slide it said, think of some difficulties you might experience when doing interviews and also positives. Why might you still want to use this method? So I might think to go through your groups, and then after about just 2 minutes, we will ask for a volunteer. Okay? So you have 2 minutes from now.
And that means that includes the group that. Okay, right, I'm going to give you too much time, we've got a lot to get, we've got a lot to get through. But I'm going to start, with the group, yeah. So, start. It's one person in each group to full time. So, that you might experience doing it, whether that's structured, structured, or you know, don't worry, all of those what you might.
The answer is, you know that the guys about the appointment that you have with and then you want to have it degree. And then the other difficulty is they can choose to go answer, not wrong engagement because you did and ask. That's
And I think it's really, you raise really, really very, very important. Very, so, second, that is saying that in an interview situation, your interviewee may not be giving you the kind of response that you need, or they may just give you a simple one-line response. So this is where your skills come in as a qualitative researcher, because you will need to prompt a bit further and think about the different ways in which you might rephrase the question. So that you phrase it and or just might prompt or maybe give us a scenario or maybe an example to say, okay, rather than saying what would you do, saying you could phrase in that situation who have done that, you know, what would they do? So we might have to give it incorrect information.
So we spoken about this, and we have read through the literature. And here on this slide, we actually have a table which shows the advantages and disadvantages of different interview approaches from unstructured interviews, semi-structured interviews, and structured interviews. So Alex, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit more about it. No? But I think maybe what we'll do is move on, because you can always refer back to this slide when you are thinking potentially about your dissertation. And if you go down the route of using a qualitative approach, you can look at this and think about these essential methods for the analysis. Yeah.
Just to reiterate, it's important to do when you're doing qualitative research. If you are going to undertake qualitative research and do interviews, that you think very carefully about which approach you take, structured, semi-structured, structured. Don't just think, oh, I think I will feel better. It's semi-structured. That's the range of you. You need to talk through the implications. And with it, you ask the research questions. So, for example, with a structured interview, they can be very good for a part, but you may miss a lot of issues. If your work is exploratory, then you may want to think more about semi-structured.
Okay. So these are what we call strengths and limitations. You might have heard those terms before when you've been looking at research on research. Okay. So we're going to give you the data, and Alex, and I know that you want to say something really important about this. Yeah.
So, I cannot emphasize enough the importance of defining your research methods. They are going to be linked to your aim. What is it that you want to achieve? So, the strong research is going on with questions with help you to determine what type of method you use, the methodology you use, and right timing in which you situate your members and everything. So research questions is really important. So you need to think through what they might be. Can I give you an example? Examples are always a good way of doing this. So in the UK, when students go from school to the university, they don't just have one qualification. There are several ways in which a student comes to university. They may take an academic route. In the UK, we have O-levels or O-levels, GCSEs, and we have advanced levels. So that's one route. But a student might want to an international school to take an international baccalaureate. They may come through a route that's more vocation. So there are all these different qualifications, but they can all enable you to come to university to the UK. I don't know if the situation is in Indonesia, but we're going to find out. That's more about. But the reason I say it is part. I did some research several years ago with a colleague called Roger Shields, and our research question was: if you have two students, one who's taken academic route into higher education, and one who's taken vocation into higher education, what are the chances of the students achieving the first class degree? Are they the same? Because the students have been told they're the same. But what was by reviewing the literature, we found out nobody asked that question before, which is extraordinary because this is the qualifications have been going for many, many years, but nobody can ask that question. So I won't tell you the answer. You can read the answer, but the point is, if you want to go about the point is that you need to think about the search question very carefully, and then that will determine what methods you use.
After that was that qualitative or quantitative?
Good question. Does anybody know the answer?
Was Alex's question for his research qualitative or quantitative?
Really good question. Thank you for raising that, Maria. So if I wanted to know, you have two students, and I wanted to generalize my findings for the whole country, would it be qualitative? Yes. So it would be quantitative data, but this is important because it's an important lesson about why we need to quantitate the data. So we did study quantitative data. It might be useful for you to look at. I'm not trying to promote my work, but it might be useful as a case study within this session. But we bought data sets, higher education, higher education statistics approach. We bought these large data sets, and we looked through the data sets, and we asked all other variables being what are the chances of a student with get a first or 2-1, or those with a big location population. So we looked at the quantitative data, and the quantitative data said you are more likely to get a first or 2-1 if you go to an academic. Okay. Now, if you imagine the headlines, and it was picked up by some of the newspapers, they said, vocational students don't do well to university. But, because they don't do a vocational route. But that wasn't the whole story. Luckily, it wasn't the whole story. Because it's qualitative data. And in the qualitative data, I did focus with students at different universities, in the university, in the second year, and the third year. And the reason that they were in the focus groups is each one of them had come to a different qualification pathway. And what the qualitative data told us was that those students can succeed at the very highest levels, but only if they got the right support in the university. So suddenly, the paradigm shift changes from a way that the student not being good enough, bright enough, or deficit. The university needed to understand their students better in order to give them the right kind of support. So can you see the qualitative data was very important.
So, from that, here's a reminder of the kinds of data that you can actually use. So we have mentioned interviews already, and those lend themselves, of course, to a qualitative approach. But we also have questionnaires and surveys, and I know that seems to be the method of choice among a lot of people that I've spoken to from UAB. We also have observations. So, for example, if you are somebody studying early childhood education and you wanted to do some research on children, you wouldn't be able to interview a 2-year-old or a 1-year-old. So it would probably be much better if you thought about using the method of observation. And then I saw Alex here in the beginning. In his own research, we have documents and records. We've also got ethnographies. So these are written about particular people. They're records of particular people within specific places. They are very are you interested in a case study approach, for example? We've also got focus groups, like, where we kind of like demonstrated here. And we also have creative methods. So, for example, you can do research with children's drawings. Okay, so when you are interested in the meanings behind the drawings of primary school children, you could actually use that as a creative method.
Yeah, just to add to that, some of the most inimitable research has been with children, has been using creative methods. So, for example, if I wanted to understand family relationships in a child's life, as a reason, I wouldn't necessarily ask and say, who are the important people for life? What I might do is get them to draw a picture and say, if you draw a picture, or you want to understand what a child understands by the meaning of home, because a home for a child may be very different to children.
Or family.
Or family.
Family look very different to children. So it might go maybe what we call the nuclear family, with the mother, the father, the child, maybe a pet dog or a pet cat. But other children have done drawings with two fathers and a mother, or one mother, or maybe a mother and a grandmother and a grandfather as part of their family. And the way that children perceive family can be very different from family to family.
So we've gone out, we've interviewed parents, or young people, gathered that data. But cumulatively, what we've got now is a lot of data.
Now you have a minute.
Yeah, now it's where the evidence starts, because you have lots of data. What you want to do is look at that data and make sense of it. And of course, what we realize is that the data that is collected, that's not our findings. That's just data collection. We collected the data themselves are our findings.
Yeah, you still have to do something with your data in order to interpret it, in order to make sense of it. Okay? So that is where you can be very creative, but as a qualitative researcher, the process can also be very subjective. So there are a few slides now with some quotes on what on earth can you do with this data. So here's one from Star. So as I mentioned, it's more work on your part. So as part of the interpretation, you might take the data apart, examine it in detail, and then your write-up is you putting it back together in a much more concise and meaningful way. You do not submit your raw data set as part of your dissertation, okay? The write-up, the dissertation is not end there. You still have to do something with your data in order to translate it into your findings and discussion.
So you've got the data, you transcribe your data. So analysis then it's that process of organizing your data. You're organizing it, you're describing what's there, understanding your account, and integrating what's happening. You are the guard, and you'll take your audience on a journey to explain what the data means.
Yeah. So here is where. So currently at the moment, I'm marking it, Alex here, is marking so many dissertations. And you need to make sure that it's clear to your dissertation supervisor, or your master supervisor, or your PhD supervisor, that what you are writing is clear. Okay, if they don't understand it, they might think about writing. Okay? No, but here, all joking aside, you need to take your reader by the hand, and that needs to be through a story that is clear to not only you, but your reader as well. And as part of the story, what you need to show are maybe patterns or themes that have emerged from the data. So this is just one way as well of analyzing your data, and we're going to take you through a review. So to introduce this method of analyzing data, which is called content analysis, essentially what you do is you categorize your data, you categorize the text. And what that involves is looking for similarities or differences in the text in order to be able to put them into different categories. So, for example, here in this room, just looking at all of your, say, okay. So, I can categorize the people in this room to those who wear their masks and those who don't have masks. Okay? So, I think it's time to have heard some yaws. I'm going to get you to stand up. Everyone who has glasses, go to that side of the room. Stand up, please. Yeah. Yeah, including the teacher. Okay? Everyone with glasses, go to the side of the room. Okay? Oh. Yeah. Excuse me. Yeah. Those of you who have glasses. Okay. Okay, those of you who don't have glasses, go to the other side of the room. So, if you are still sitting down, you have not followed the instructions. Okay? So, please. And hopefully you will move up a little bit. So, if you have no glasses, you need to be on this side. If you have glasses, you need to be on this side. This is the way you are. Yeah. Okay. So that's a little exercise in making categories. Okay. So okay, here's another one. Okay. All of you now, okay, who have glasses and also hijab, go over there. Okay? You have hijab. You have glasses, hijab. Okay?
Now we know how to do our no, it's not a serious one. It's not a serious one. But I just found that there are we do have. For me, like two different kinds of things. But can everybody else?
So, everyone, what do you think those to be meeting?
It's really important. This is the big lesson. This is the big lesson. If you go on with it today and you don't put anything else, remember that because this one thing that different people will see the data differently. Each of you will see the data differently. Some of you will see two things. Some of you will see one thing. Some of you may not see anything at all. And so how do you interpret the data? We can't remove ourselves from the data. We can't pretend that we are somehow removed and look at it objectively. Because we always bring ourselves as part of the research process.
This is actually one point in the research process where you are most cognitively active because you are having to make decisions about your data. Yeah. So thank you very much. May I invite all of you again to think around. Okay. So we're going to start talking about analysis now in more depth. Okay, and on this slide here, we have some different ways that you will give your analysis, starting with transcription. Okay, now transcription, that is the means by which you get those words down on paper so that you can submit them as part of your dissertation. So, but it is the transcription, if you've done an interview, it's the transcript that will be analyzed. There are different ways actually to do transcription. Okay, so we start with this. In your Google folder, you have two types of transcripts. So you have activity 2A transcript, and you also have activity 2B transcript. This is from a participant whose name is Shadria. Okay? So I just want you to now have a look at the transcripts and just to see how different they look. One is called a plain script transcript, and the other one is a Jeffersonian transcript. Okay? So I'm just going to give you maybe a couple of minutes to look at each one. I'm not going to get you to read them. I just want for you to look at the differences between activity 2A transcript and activity 2B transcript. Are very lovely terima kasih, and are very lovely Sarah, terima kasih Sarah. Actually, terima kasih banyak. Yeah, they put everything on Google folder. Okay. Have you had a chance to look? Yeah? What's the difference? What's going on? Why does B look different to A?
activity there's below
Okay, thank you very much. So we've got numbers, we have got symbols like a full stop or period, in parentheses or brackets, and that basically signifies a pause. Okay, a pause. So sometimes when you're interviewing, like you might get a person that say, I really like that. That's the pause. And in Jeffersonian, that's indicated by a full stop or a period inside brackets. Sometimes they put laugh as well. So in Jeffersonian, you would record that. You would actually say, or okay. However, in the plain script transcript, those different behaviors, the pauses, the laughter, the uhs, and the ums, they would not be recorded. And that's why here on this slide, it talks about unnaturalized transcription. You record everything, okay? And there are different orthographic courses, as we like to say in the UK. And if I'm going to be doing, as a learner of the stage one, a semantic analysis, I want to use Jeffersonian because I will find meaning in all those pauses and laughter and and I've also interviewed husband and wife together, and I looked at the way they look at each other. Yeah, I think to say, no, you go. Yeah, so all of that is noted in the Jeffersonian transcript. Okay, now if you want to say something to that.
Just briefly, just to add to the you need to be thinking about what it is you want to do and what it is you want to aim. So, for example, if you're looking at relationships, then you would want to include those clues that they get from people's body language, from the pauses that they have in between talking to somebody. There may be sort of hesitations, or there may be
Or
laughter,
emphasis.
or
As opposed to, I really look like that person. That is so different.
So whereas if I was, for example, if my audience was a policy audience, if I was doing a research project that had a policy element, and I wanted to talk to one of your education ministers, and I was producing reports using qualitative data, I probably wouldn't want to use the detail. I would be using more intelligent behavior. So I would just be using, so instead, when we get an example, I really make that nice point, I would just say, I would use the data and my analysis, I would need to write it all out. Because I would say there is some hostility towards this person. You know? So I wouldn't need
You wouldn't need to quote. Okay. So, okay. So, we also have other forms of analysis. This form of analysis really interesting form of analysis, and that looks at the organization of context and the methods to produce meaning. So, for example, you always said, I really hate that person. Okay, that's something called extreme gain formulation. Because I said the word really 3 times to express my hate, my depth of feeling for this person, okay? And then we also have narrative, which is really interesting because it's about storytelling. And this is something that can be done in a much more relaxed way. However, the narrative inquiry, so let me just make a difference between narrative inquiry and narrative analysis. When you're doing the inquiry, that is when you use storytelling. So you would open up with just one question, like, tell me about what it's like to be a student here at UAB. And you could say, I'm not going to interrupt you. I would like for you to talk as much as you like and about what's important for you here at UAB. And you can even tell me, for example, how you might spend the day with you. Okay? And that's it. That's the only question that I might ask them. Apart from maybe some prompts like, oh, tell me a bit more about that before. Oh, really? That sounds interesting. You said before. Okay? But with a narrative analysis, you're essentially looking for things like ideas, for example, or structures or mechanisms that have basically impacted on the story, the different factors that influence the experiences of the participant.
Just very last about this, just to say that there's sort of years, average of life. Yes. So we're gonna go.
Online. Oh, no, it's more like that. Okay. I think
Just say reminding everybody that when you think about terms that we use, everyday life. That the terms don't necessarily reflect, they don't just reflect reality, but they actually create the reality. So the terms we use determine how we think about given situations. So terminology is very important. And when you're thinking about discourse analysis, you can, that's a very powerful way of analyzing the way that we talk. For example, in politics, you may want to give a view of a particular topic. So you will notice that the politicians already would use certain terms. It's quite interesting to how they use language to talk about particular issue. So that might be one example.
Yeah, so if I was doing a discourse analysis review about your experiences that you may be, I would look to see how you use the language that you use to describe or construct your experiences. So I look to see if your language is positive or negative, for example, and the way that you use language to describe things as well would also help to signify the importance of those things within the relationship. But this slide here is about introduction, okay, or introductory listening. And this is to remind us that as qualitative researchers, what we really need to do is look at your data and use what is in your data for your analysis. And there's some other points here that are equally important about not only using your data, but not just looking at it once, maybe not even twice, maybe 3 times, maybe 4 times. Because what you are doing is you have a very, very important role in making sense of your data. Okay, remember I said to you, you need to take your reader by the hand so that they understand the story that you were trying to tell about your data. So now we go to coding.
So now we're going to get you to do some short tests.
In a few slides.
But let's just talk further about what do we mean by coding? So, it's a label that the research gives to relevance of text within an entrance, which contains an idea or a piece of information, something that has jumped out of the data to something because that really tells a story, that short piece of text. So what I'm going to do is code it. Maybe I'm going to code it in a different color, maybe I'm going to give it a number, or I'm going to try and code it. I'm going to try and capture the nature of the
What do you mean? Yeah, what it means to you as a researcher. Okay, so here's a really important reminder. There's no point because, you know, when I work with my last data set, let me tell you how many participants I had. So how many people here in this room? So I did this with a community. Okay, yes, it is completely possible to do qualitative research with the whole community. They were all students. How many people here think that I actually derived qualitative data from 20 students? How many people think it was 20? Hands up. How many people think it was 50 students? How many people think it was 100 students? How many people think it was 180 students? Yeah, who I know. So I collected qualitative data from 180 students, it was pages and pages and pages and pages of data. Okay? So I have to make sense here. But an important point here is there's no point in actually spending hours and hours and hours of coding unless you can actually make sense of what you're coding. Okay? So there are various approaches to this. And Alex has already elaborated on this point about using the label to code your data or to identify your data. So I'm going to go through this quickly and go through reordering categories. Okay? So now we go from having code to having categories.
Okay, so it's a growing, it's a growing theory to develop. So you want to use theory. I think,
So when you categorize, essentially, what you're doing is you're working with theory or you're working with the literature that you have already researched. Okay? So I'm sure you're familiar, please tell me if otherwise. When you write your thesis, your chapter 1 is only an introduction. Your chapter 2 is your literature review. Yeah? And in your literature review, that is where you spoke the literature that has come before you and you write about what is happening in the field in relation to your topic. Okay? So you can use the literature, including the theory that has been included there, to come up with categories for your data set. Okay? And this is because other people have written potentially about the topic that you are exploring. And so it might be easy to categorize what your participants are saying according to what has been written about already. So this is one way to make sense of your data and all those different codes that you have come up with. Okay? And categorizing has also been referred to as using a framework to approach your data. And it helps you focus on making sense of all your different codes very, very early on. Okay? So we now have an extract for you to read. Okay, so if you go to activity 3, extract A, that is actually from an undergraduate dissertation at the University of Gloucestershire. And I want to see if you can spot some categories that might have been used for that by that student to make sense of their data. What do they write about? What do they tell you about in a particular aspect? So what sort of kids are they talking about in the playground? I think that happens in the playground. Okay, anyone, please tell me about one thing that we have used potentially as an activity. Like maybe a couple of games that the student has written about. So we're on, this is activity 3 with the, there's an extra credit. Yeah. So the natural dissertation. Yeah. So what did you find over here? I know.
About school behavior policies and critical evidence. Lakukan classroom plan allows teachers to develop the talent of routine and responsibility. And the second area is the and the final area is individual plans. So all are created for the children who has who have this topic.
Thank you very much. So there are other things that we're reading about in this particular illustration in the learner's literature review. And this is just a list which identifies what these are. However, when developing a framework to actually code or to make sense of the goals that this particular learner has, you are very rightly identified. Think also about things like what was happening in the classroom, what was happening in the playground, and also individual plans. So this is actually a framework for analysis that was made by the learner, that was actually developed from their literature review, and you can see that has translated into those 3 reoccurring categories. Okay? But there's other ways yet to analyze the data, and we are also going to think about pre-ordering categories. So there's nothing in the Google folder that we have this slide in. Okay? So if you have a look, okay, I'll read you that. Let's see if we can make sense together. So the researcher is intended to observe 3 different situations. Children's misbehavior, negative reinforcement used by teachers, and the positive reinforcement. Within these 3 groups, they were each categorized further. The researcher categorized children's misdemeanor in 6 categories: shouting out, temper tantrums, toy stealing, unfriendly attitude, unresponsive to the teacher, and disruptive behavior. Then, the negative reinforcement technique were categorized into 5 separate categories: urban warning, overcorrection, removal of personal items, timeout, and reported behavior disparities. And then the positive reinforcement was categorized into 4 categories: praise, extra attention, rewarded a sticker, and given a certificate. Okay? And all of these have been derived, if you like, through looking at the literature, but also thinking about what is in the data. Okay, given the context in which the research took place. And as Alex said earlier, when you make these categories and when you code, it's really, really important that you answer a research question. Okay? There's no point in doing something in your analysis if it does not fit your research question. So in this particular case, this was about behavior and also ways for dealing with behavior. So you wouldn't necessarily put something in that about which was the favorite playground equipment of the children, because that does not correspond to behavior. Okay? Right. And here is just some highlights to show where this particular student actually was able to highlight to the reader how they were doing their analysis. Okay? So, the data set came from observations of 3 different situations. That's the three. And then, they give you a clue that the categories that are focused on misdemeanor, negative reinforcement, and positive reinforcement. Okay? So this PowerPoint is also in your Google Drive, so you can look at this later on. But we're going to move on now, because actually, we want to move you on to doing some coding of your own. So before I leave these two approaches, I just want to say that when you're coding your data, you might have 3 coordinate categories or themes. There's qualitative categories of themes, or a combination of both. Okay, so that's what we want about any methods so far. Okay, right. So here's just some reminders. Okay. So when you code in this way, essentially what you're doing is accentuating reliability. Okay, so although this is a qualitative approach, it is really more optimistic, in nature, because you're looking at the reliability. The reason being you have already pre-chosen what your categories are. Okay, and these culture themes are not culture themes, tend to be developed very early on in the analytical process. And yes, themes are not a perfect point. They might be hypothesized following a degree of familiarization with the data, which means that maybe you skim read your data set and you thought, okay, I'm looking at this now, and I can see that in accordance with my research question, I might talk about negative reinforcement and positive reinforcement. However, these themes now are typically understood as summaries of what participants have said in relation to a particular topic or data collection question. Okay? Does that make sense? Yeah? So, what data set, what literature review, you you're familiar with the literature, you want to be somewhat familiar with your data set. And what you've done now is you've thought, aha, okay, I can see some things, projects emerging, so I'll write them down. And now I'm going to code or categorize my data according to this. Okay? So you don't deviate from that, it's not just one of them. You've got a whole trend. Now, there's another way to do this, which is thematic analysis. Now, here's the description, what is involved. Okay? You find a lot of thematic analysis in you. And thematic analysis is just that. It represents taking themes, found, say, in the interview or other qualitative data. And it is a very accessible, it's an easy to use method, in other words. Okay? However, what you need to do as a researcher, you use this particular approach, is to identify a number of themes which describe, accurately describe the contents of the data. And it's you, the researcher, who do that. These themes are not waiting to be found in the data. You need to be active. Remember I said earlier that it's in the analysis where you are probably most cognitively active. Okay? Now, this is one reason why, although it seems easy, it is demanding. Okay? Because you are going to really need to get close to your data. You are going to need to know your data as well as you know maybe your best friend or your sister or your brother. Okay? And you're going to know it so well that when your dissertation supervisor talks to you about it, you can say, yes, that's what this said. Okay? I'm serious. Okay? In fact, I was asking the questions about my data, and I said, yes. Now, how many people here have heard of reflexive thematic analysis? Because this is a very particular type of thematic analysis. And this is an approach which has been developed by Virginia Broad and Virginia Clark. Okay? They are the leaders in the field when it comes to this type of analysis. In fact, when they first proposed thematic analysis, the deductive thematic analysis, it was as far back as 2006. And their approach is refined since then. Okay? So it involves 6 steps. And these are the 6 steps of one part approach. So, step 1, familiarize yourself with the data. Read. Okay? Remember, qualitative data, you need to read it like you do the book. Yeah? Step 2, initial coding. Okay? So, at this point, you're working with the data, and you are using these codes to actively describe what you are reading, trying to make sense of it in these initial stages. Step 3, you will then generate themes. Okay? Themes are not in the data waiting to be found. You make them. You infer them from the data. Step 4, validity and reliability of the themes. Although that sounds like something fun, it's not. It's about you checking that your themes make sense. Okay? So this is a quality check. In other words, step 5, defining and naming themes. I've used some wonderful names for themes. sometimes I found a really, what I call a juicy quote from my participants, and I'll use that today again. However, at other times, I have used something that makes sense, okay? So the label that needs to make sense for that collection of code. And then finally, we have interpretation and reporting. Right, so I have got now about 2 or 3 slides about how to reflect the semantic analysis, okay? And some of these things I've already emphasized, but I'll just repeat that because firstly, I cannot overemphasize your active involvement in this, okay? That's the first point. Number 2, calls are understood to represent the researchers interpreting the patterns that we across the data set. There is your interpretation, okay? Yours and no one else's. If Alex is given a data set and he's asked to code it, he might code it in a way that's different to the way I code it, okay? It might be possible that he comes up with some codes that are similar to mine. But his interpretation of the data set will be very different to mine. And this is why you don't have inter-coder reliability and semantic analysis. You don't give your codes to someone and you don't take them. Can you please check that my codes are the same as yours? No, you can't do that. You can give your codes to someone and you take them. In fact, allow you to describe these well. And I'll take it instead. Okay. So essentially, number 3, third point here, is a reminder that you need to make some theoretical assumptions in respect to your data, but you also need to use your analytical skill as a researcher. Now, we've talked about interpretive income, we mentioned that earlier, but I'm actually a critical linguist, okay? So I'm not interested in just descriptions or subjective interpretations. I want to go deeper. I want to understand why, for example, people do things. I want to understand if inequalities exist, then what's causing those inequalities? And when I do the coding, I'm always interrogating at a much deeper level. Okay, so if I was not a critical realist, I might potentially be maybe more superficial in the way that I relate to my data because I won't be interested in the underlying mechanisms and structures in society that cause things to happen. Okay? So maybe I'll give you an example. If my research was focused on what is causing teachers within primary schools in Indonesia to be unhappy following latest round of education ministries policy developments. Okay, so some of the teachers are actually talking about forgetting about the job, and they might say, you know, this new curriculum, yeah, fine, this is lots of breakdown, expression. But start scratching it, and we don't know what to do. And I'm just so punishing, I'm so unhappy. Okay? So I'm going to quote that, and I'm going to say something about redemption in my quote. Yeah? Okay. So I've already mentioned in Form 1 about no two researchers will ever code in the same way or actually come up with things the same way. So skip through that, okay? That's repeated here. However, okay, you are coding in a way that you want to be accurate or reliable, okay, so for example, you speak code in Scala, that's not what qualitative, what this particular qualitative approach data analysis is about. Okay, remember, this is about, as one collaborative, your reflective and your thought qualification with the data, and also your reflexive, which is different from reflective, your reflexive and thought qualification with the analytical process. So what's the difference between reflective and reflexive? Well, with a reflexive approach, you are acknowledging that you probably bias. You come with certain stereotypes. You come with experiences. You come with preferences. And what that means is the way that you code, the way that you analyze your case will always be influenced by you and what you bring to the table. And that is what makes your interpretation unique. Okay, so I mentioned this already earlier. And I said that it is perfectly okay to sense check, make sure that what you're coding or analyzing or coming up with a sense of things makes sense, okay? So that's perfectly all right. Don't go down the route of integrated reliability. Okay? However, this is not about striving to one correct answer, as Alan said earlier, okay? This is the beauty that lies in qualitative analysis. And this is how the creativity also is demonstrated within semantic analysis, okay? We don't purport to actually provide a single or correct answer. And this is just what coding might look like. So, how many of you use Word as a component section in Word? So, good, because you can actually, so this is what this research is in. This is from David Byrne, and this is actually an example of his own work. And what he did was, he just used Microsoft Word as a component section to go over each and every line of data. Okay, you cannot skip a line at all. You are coding according to your research question. And we just wrote these descriptive comments or codes line by line according to this data. Semantic codes basically are much more superficial, if you like, because they might just be describing an event. However, native code goes through the descriptive level of the data, and they hopefully will find those hidden meanings, underlying assumptions or ideas that actually might shape the way that the participant has said something. So after critical readers, I didn't use both semantic and native codes, but you can probably know that I have more native codes in my analysis. Okay, so, right, line by line, every single line, any item that will be useful in actually addressing the research question should be coded. You won't do it just once, you might do it twice, you might do it thrice, okay? And in fact, the second and the third time you do it, you might actually end up discarding codes. You might say, oh, actually, no, that doesn't make sense, I'll just get rid of that. And in doing this, an iterative approach, and recording it, this will not only aid transparency, but also afford the researchers signposts and waypoints rather, to which they might return later on, should a particular approach go in Unfruitful. And this has happened to me. My dissertation supervisor said, sorry, Maria, I didn't get it. I really don't get it. And you know what I did? Rather than start from, say, the second iteration or third iteration, I just threw everything in the bin. And I started all over again. And then I sat down together with the and she said, yeah, okay, that makes sense. Okay? So don't despair. It is going to be so wonderful when you can actually go to your data and then you can tell readers what your participants are saying. Okay. Oh my goodness, I spoke so much. Yeah. I thought it might be nice for you to start with the plain script transcript. Okay? So not the Jeffersonian, not the window for the symbols and the dashes and the others and the others, but just the plain one. And you are not going to go this data set according to this question. How does Shadia construct friendship? Okay? You have two objectives. So in order for people to answer that research question, you have two objectives. How does Shadia describe a friend? How does Shadia describe the friendship services that she engages in? In other words, how does Shadia make friends? So, how does Shadia describe her friends? How does Shadia make friends? Okay? And you're going to code the Shadia plain script transcript. Now remember, coding needs to be descriptive. So if you are just writing one word to describe a code, chances are Alex and I will look over it and will say, don't understand what does that mean. Okay? So your codes need to have a level of description in them.
And can I also suggest that you don't do this individually, but do it in a team?
Yeah.
Do it together. So you're in small teams and go through it together, discuss it together. So yes, by all means, bring up the activity individually.
Yeah.
And read through it, but the sharing your ideas with people.
Yeah. Because you're having to go now, it's your first time, and although coding is only undertaken by the individual researcher, there's nothing better than just bouncing off some ideas off each other when you
So, for example, we've worked together with some of that back, and when we're doing some of our things, we may do it in a room together, and we may be sharing ideas. So sometimes, obviously, as students will be working on your own project, there will be other times when your leaders share data and look at it and come up with ideas together. So this is quite a good exercise for that.
Okay, so how long would you like to do it with them? Yeah, so maybe try to at least go through the first couple of pages. Yeah, because the interview doesn't really get it going until the second. So maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Okay, so I would like to see get through at least page 3. In your coordination. All right.
Yeah. While you're doing this exercise, if anyone needs a break
Yes.
as well, we'll take a break back to the room to finish the exercise. Is anybody unsure of what they need to do? Are you able to maybe join? Do you want to join the bedroom? And you can join this group. So that you're in the group.
I pulled up this slide again to show you what some of the polls that they very in the slide. Someone needs to write down their quotes. Okay?
So in each group, choose one person to be inscribed as somebody who's going to look back. So we're going to ask one person from each group to give the answers, the group's answers to those two questions. If you want to be interested in that. So remember the two questions. How is this model coding? You're going through and you're looking at things and how can you answer how does a ship construct? So what you're trying to do is look at how she describes the friends and how she describes the friendship process she engages in. So there's two different things going on. You need to code two different things.
The Shakira interview lasted about an hour. So you can see how long a transcript you will have if you interview somebody for about an hour. And remember, you're just looking at what Shakira is saying, not reading the words. Yeah, so don't read what the interview, the questions are the just read the question. Sorry, just read the answers of Shakira. Transcript is saying for all of them. Activity. So remember, the Shakira transcript is activity 2A, the plain script transcript. So, activity 2A transcript. Yeah, but there's no comments, that's fine. Yeah. Hello, can I just say, I noticed that the transcript has some highlighting. Yellow. So, however, there's no coding, only highlighting. So you still have to code, and don't forget, it has to be your function, okay? So when you just read all our highlighting. Yeah, let's start from scratch. Because my highlighting won't make sense to you anymore. Yeah, remember, ignore the highlighting. Ignore. Delete the highlighting. Yeah.
Okay, you do 2 more minutes, and then we're going to ask each team to just let us know some of the themes that speak to those objectives. Sorry, codes rather, codes. Okay, draw up. Right, so we're going to stop there. What we want to do is ask each team what some of the codes were. And apologies that we said one that had highlighting on originally. So I hope that you didn't use, didn't use that and you don't yourself then. So maybe we could start with. So in terms of the codes, maybe we'll start with and then we'll go to each one.
Okay, so we found counting, and I'm not sure if this numerical part or not, but the first question, how does Angela plan? Part one, she described her that the aspect that she was speaking. Okay, then both of them live in same town in Milton Keynes. And three Shana's Tech. Salsula is described as someone that can easily gain a friend. She is very confident. And next, her friend can speak two languages, English and German, because she is confident.
Okay, so you highlighted interesting things posed in the sentences, but how would you describe those things?
I think I would describe it like she's from Germany. She's very well. She now as Sadia. She is easygoing and she has been a best friend since 6 years old.
Okay, thank you very much. So, I'm going to add to that, and I think what you have picked out are the characteristics of Shadia's friends. In particular, her best friend. Okay, so when you're coding, you will not put, like, for example, she lives in Germany or he's 5 years old. Your code, your descriptive code will have characteristic of the best friend. Yeah, because that captures what that interesting thing in the sentence is about. And then if you can see that code repeating again and again and again, you know then that there is something about how Sophia describes her best friend. Yeah? So if you read the whole transcript, you will see that Sophia has several friends, but she describes her best friend in a certain way. Yeah?
So we're gonna go to group two.
The confidence that she describes her friend as someone's friend, and then she also describes as a good friend. Also, they are best friends. That's the same finding. And then next, that's for first objective. Yeah, well done. Yeah. And then they help each other. They do they help each other to be found. So that's for number 2. For second objective. Yeah, okay. So somehow, as part of becoming a friend, you help each other. Okay? So thank you. Well done.
You want more than
Yeah. So you're gonna make things there, but I'll ask you for one more step proposal.
so just one more. Right. And then we'll get into but was there anything in this one that
Learning apart from what is your experience with our friends. Wherever you found solid on the every one, share with your friend. That a different competition and have felt that sounds really difficult. Second, subject, creativity, this will her relationship with the friend and the few points of the sense of the friendship. Everything on the TV, such as therefore, when they were also involved, continuing with her friend, promotion from the management. The company, the insurance company, coach for the said they are 1 million friends. The direction of is strong, again, which strong and connection between them. Then they will have the conflict to go out of the work and congress in the Thank you very much. Okay, so let's give everyone a big clap. So far. And you have been at the activities there, attachment in your Google Drive. But what I wanted to show you is I gave you the wrong file, okay? Here, some of my coding. So if you have a look at the activities in file, in the appendix, you'll see there that I have coded the entire page transcript, which has 23 pages. So if you want to later on, you can have a go at doing some coding with the rest of the transcript and see how that might make sense in relation to what I did. But again, remember, there is no such thing as integration reliability in qualitative methods, and this is just a sense of, or this is what we do for sense checking. Okay? So what Power tonight would like to do now is the last activity. And this is about generating themes. And you start to generate themes when you have finished your coding. So the focus will now shift from the interpretation of the individualized data set. You're no longer looking at things line by line, but you are now looking for meaningfulness. What do all these different codes mean? Remember, as I mentioned earlier, there's no point in coding if you can't make sense of it. So your themes actually make sense of your codes. So, again, remember, themes do not reside in the data waiting to be found. You are an active researcher. You must make your code and also construe the different relationships, construe the relationships between the different codes as well as the themes. So, themes need to be distinctive. In other words, they shouldn't overlap with each other. So, for example, with Shazia, there might be something about her best friend, and indeed, some of you have already made some codes in relation to her best friend. But there might be a theme to do with how she describes her other friends. Okay? Now, sometimes because you work so hard on something, it's so hard to let go of your work and your goals and your needs. But let me tell you, in this activity of trying to make sense, please don't be tempted to keep anything that does not make sense. Okay? Remember, you need to take the reader by the hand, and you need to help them understand what on earth the research is about. Another important point, there is no such thing as the correct amount of themes. So there's no point in turning to your supervisor and saying, Miss or Mr. Bob, who, how many themes do I need? Okay? However, I can tell you this from experience. If your dissertation is around 10,000 words, you probably will only have enough space to write about 4 themes, between 10,000 and 12,000 words. Okay, to write about 4 themes and to do a good job about writing about those 4 themes. Okay, because you need to fully explore the depth and the breadth of the data. And then at this stage, you should also produce what's called the thematic map. And here's an example of one. Okay, so the themes are in the oval, and the sub-theme, the she might have substitutes are in the square, and the lines, including the solid line and the dotted line, represent the relationship between them. So here's some useful questions to ask yourself when you're viewing things. Number one, is it a theme or could it be a whole? Number two, if it is a theme, what is the quality of this theme? Does it actually tell me something useful about the data set and in relation to my research question or objective? Number three, what are the boundaries of this theme? What does it include and exclude? Number four, are there enough meaningful data to support this theme, or is it fit? So, for example, how significant is that issue to your participants? This is not about counting, okay? So don't count the number of times that your participants have said it. What you need to do is make sense of how important, how significant it is to them. And finally, number five, are the data too diverse and wide-ranging? Does it seem non-linearly? So, your last activity, you'll need to define and name some things. Okay, so how with those codes that you selected, how would you make a theme from them? What would you call it? Okay, so just
Very nice activity.
Yeah.
Just go back over that data set. Have a look at how, what were the themes? The last exercise.
what would you call them? Okay, so maybe I can put up my code. You probably tired you out.
Okay, right, so that's the last activity. I'm just going to ask each group, if there's one person, each typically is three. Just give us one thing. Or give us more than one. This is one thing. Have we got any volunteers from the field from the team? Oh, well done, Stefan.
for what is from the transcript, I will tell the extent of this transcript is about friendship. Because we know every single highlight there is actually talking about how friendship goes like, whether it's about her best friend or her other friend. So I think the link is friendship doesn't provide you. Thank you very much. Yeah.
So from the next group, the group next to, do we have a volunteer for the next group? This group. Just one thing, and one thing for this group. That would be helpful.
Alex, in truth, it is, as we said earlier, they can only start deriving their themes once they finish coding. So it is early, ladies and gentlemen, to find themes. So this is why I think what we're doing, just to encourage you to continue with your coding, I want to point out that on page 33 of the activity state attachment, these are all of the codes that came from my coding. This is the initial semantic map. So there were 3 themes: Eva as best friend, making friends, and staying friends. So just 3 themes in order to answer the research question. And these are all codes from the 3 themes. So this is how the codes were used to design the 3 themes. And then, because I said, it's not enough that you do it once, twice is nice, but thrice is even nicer. These were my initial codes, initial themes. Then I went back and I checked. And then I recoded my code. Then I came up with some themes. And then I came up with some themes. So, my final semantic map was this following coding. And if you want to look at the write-up, so Alex actually said this was the last activity that we were doing with you, but there is actually homework. You have homework. You need to read the report. Okay, so that's activity 6. You need to read the write-up so that you can see how we wrote about our research findings.
So that's something you could do in your own time. But I think on that note, we hope that you have found this an interesting session, and we very much enjoyed having you here. So thank you for all your participation and all the questions and answers.
Thank you. And hopefully, because you have all the materials that the very lovely Stella and Anita uploaded to the Google Drive, you'll be able to examine them at next in your own time. And you can also go through the slides and revisit for learning from today. And I hope sometime you find it useful if you decide to take on a qualitative approach to your research. So thank you very much. Terima kasih banyak. Okay, thank you for our speakers of the University of Columbia. And before I would like to summarize this meeting, we would like to thank because we have new knowledge insight about qualitative methodologies that can help us in the future research on the family before we learn qualitative research. That's very helpful. Thank you so much. And before I close the workshop from us, we would like to give appreciation to Dr. Alex and Dr. Amanda from to Dr. Alex. Now the 5 minutes last agenda. Okay, before we close the workshop, we would like to do the photo session. So let's stand up together and arrange the slide to do the photo session.
Thank you.